Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, camera 1 and camera 2 have speed at 10, 9, 10. Audio, please.
Sound and speed.
Okay, good. All right, everybody, let me get it together here.
You ready to mark it?
Okay, I'm ready. Go ahead, Mark.
Okay. After Eden docuseries, Amber, take 1.
Good. We're clear. Once everybody's settled, we'll be ready. Make sure that is on. Okay, sir, when you're ready, we're clear.
Amber, can you tell us your name, your last name, the organization or organizations, because you're more than one, that you want to represent?
Okay, yeah. My name's Amber Bible. I am the founder of Her True Name out of Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Amber, and then Katie, can I ask Amber to turn your body just a little bit this way? Right there, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. How did you get involved in fighting this crime?
Okay, well, I've been sober for about 4 years. I've been completely out of the life or the game for 5. I used to actually work in the strip clubs in Tulsa, and that's kind of where all of my mess started. So it kind of just made sense for me to start a strip club outreach at that point. So.
Tell me about the organization and a little bit of the exact work that you guys do.
Okay. Okay, so Her True Name, it's a strip club outreach specifically designed to reach women in the sex industry. What we do is we prep and we pray over bags that go into the strip clubs in Tulsa. Last month, we put together 70. Well, we put together 90, gave away 70. We went into the strip clubs in Tulsa and the surrounding areas as well. Her True Name hosts a coffee hour twice a month, and that is basically just for fellowship and a time for Her True Name to be readily available if any time the dancers need any type of resources, whether that's needs help looking for jobs or anything like that.
Amber, am I correct in saying that Her True Name comes from, there's a real person behind the girl who's on stage? That's not her name, but not even if it was her real name, which I don't think it would be, there's a real person. Is that where it comes from?
Absolutely. Absolutely. She's someone. Someone's
daughter, someone's sister, someone's friend. It's impossible to handle this with light questions,
That's okay.
so we're just going to dive in. Do you think the general population in America really understand the world of stripping?
I'm going to say absolutely not, because if they did, or if the general population did, then commercials wouldn't be soft porn like they are. I mean, I think it's completely desensitizing society just watching a commercial, because they seem to kind of take it over the top, in my opinion.
The girls who are stripping, who are dancing in clubs, coming into it, are some of them forced into it? Do some come in naive? Is there entrapment?
I would say all of the above, probably on different levels, depending on situations. I personally believe it's almost like a fake glamorous facade. Like, you think that, certain things are going to happen at some point. You'll be able to make all this money. You'll be able to pay off debt. You'll be able to buy a car. And I mean, that might all be true, but eventually, other things come into factor as well.
Such as?
addiction. Maybe they get involved with other people and they don't realize exactly what those other people are involved in themselves. And that is also where, the naive part comes into play. I had no idea. I don't know if I can say this, but I had no idea that pimping and hoeing even existed. I thought that was just on the movies. So whenever I was approached, I completely shot it down because I was like, yeah, no, I make plenty of money here at the club. I'm fine. But once I went to a party and there were other dancers there, they ended up leaving they left the hotel room and they ended up in California and they were posting on Backpage at that point. And I don't believe that that's what they thought they were getting into at first. They thought they were going in there dancing and then they got, whether they might have, a lot, the story I hear a lot is I was getting so high and I needed a way to keep that income coming in, because when you're making $1,000 a night, that seems like a lot of money until 500 of that is going into your arm because you're an IV user.
Just so you know, there's nothing off limits in this industry.
Okay.
You can speak completely unfiltered. That is both language and content, subject matter. You can show frustration. You can be yourself. Okay?
Cool, thanks.
Yeah. Would you recommend somebody getting into that life?
No, absolutely not. No way.
Tell me about the dangers of being a stripper.
One, I can tell you personal experiences to that. I was followed home one night, and I was naive also, and I walked up to my apartment door, and a man who I had just seen in the club was right behind me, and I was like, wow. But I had a way to protect myself at that point, and not to mention a neighbor happened to come home, which I believe is why nothing happened. And he left, and I moved. It scared me.
Is sex trafficking happening in strip clubs?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sex trafficking, sexual exploitation. At one point, I have went into a club and it's for outreach, and I thought one particular young lady was very young, and I ended up calling the local police department and reported it, and they did their whole other investigation. I'm not sure what came of that, but I know when I went back into the club the following month, she was not there.
Talk to me a little bit. I really want to kind of dive into management at these clubs. Who are these people? Do they truly care about the girls, or is it just about money? Are there back deals being made? Basically, selling humans.
I would say, they're humans just like anyone else that probably made a few bad decisions that resulted in where they're at also. I don't personally believe that anybody wakes up and says, oh, I want to be a stripper when I grow up, and I personally don't believe that anybody says, I want to be a bartender at a strip club when I grow up. And so I believe it's just a series of bad decisions that it's where you end up. Do they care? I want to say yes, they do care. They're letting us in the clubs. They know what we're doing. They know we're giving them resources if they need it. They know we're hosting coffee hours. They do let us in there. Backdoor deals, I'm sure. I'm sure of it. Because I don't believe it's even possible to really keep track of the money that's going in and out, not to mention, and that's just not cash register money. There's the lap dances, there's the drinks they're selling. I don't feel it's feasible to keep up with the money that's going in and out of a club. Because when I was dancing, I was making $1,000 a night. And that is just one person. I have no idea what else was going on in the club. I don't know what the manager was holding on to. I don't know what the door guy was holding on to. I don't know what the top dancer was doing, so that I don't believe that we can grasp how much is actually going in and out.
Of the $1,000 that you made a night, is that tips coming in? How much of that 1,000 stayed with the club?
I was a generous tipper. So if I made 1,000, I was easily leaving behind 250, sometimes 300 just in tips, because you've got to tip out when you're leaving. So, because that's how they make their money also.
Did you ever feel threatened while dancing? Unsafe?
I never really thought about it because I was very naive. I thought this was just something that, women did when they felt rebellious, so it wasn't a big deal. And we were just going into the club and hanging out. And so once they had to talk me into getting up there, and it took about 5 different days of us just going in there and hanging out for them to get me up there. I honestly never felt unsafe until I was followed home that one night. And then once I was followed home, it shifted my perspective a lot. And that's when it kind of opened my eyes, and that's when I started seeing things a little differently. But at that point, I had warrants out for my arrest. So me going into an office to get a quote unquote normal job was out of the question, because in my head, I was going to walk in there, tell them my name. They were going to do a background check, and they were going to have the cops waiting for me. So I was more scared of going into jail and going to prison than I was to keep doing what it was I was doing.
Some of the warrants, are these violations? What is that lifestyle? What comes with that lifestyle? Because I'm assuming it came with the lifestyle. And it's a series of decisions. It's always.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The warrants. So I would, specifically, the one I'm talking about, it was a failure to appear warrant because I was probably just too high to go to court, and I didn't. So that failure to appear warrant, that came into place. So with that failure to appear also had me pretty scared just to go check in with probation. So, a whole vicious cycle started after that. And then once you have one failure to appear, chances are you're going to have a failure to pay coming up right behind it. And then that just stacks on the violations with your probation.
In your opinion, the girls that are in this world, help me understand the level of dysfunction. Or would you say it's function?
Functioning dysfunction, is that a thing? I would say functioning dysfunction, because when you get so used to the chaos around you, even though that chaos comes with its own set of demons, you still find comfort in that being familiar. So to even think about trying to change that is a whole level of fear in itself.
Have you ever been an abuse victim?
Yes.
Are you comfortable talking about that?
Yeah.
Please do.
It's actually the reason I got into recovery. I was with a man who I loved dearly, and we were just in that whole criminal lifestyle completely, selling drugs, hustling over here, hustling there, borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. I mean, it was completely nuts. It was just nuts. And he had thought I had stopped stripping when I had not. I was being very manipulative and sneaky about it. Whenever he realized that that's what I was doing, him and I got into a huge altercation. it was very physical, is what actually made I was standing on my own 2 feet for most of the struggle, but he ended up grabbing me by my throat and he threw me onto a table and started choking me out. And I thought, this is it. This is it. This is how I'm going to die. I'm going to die on this floor with the man who I thought I loved hands over my neck. And even just that split second before I lost consciousness, it broke my heart. Just to know, I mean, not the drugs, not the lifestyle, him, that he was hurting me. And I don't know what happened, but when I woke up, I grabbed my shoes, I grabbed my phone, and I took off down the road, and I never looked back after that. And I actually stayed on my cousin's couch for about 2 weeks because I was black and blue all over. I was pretty sore. And once I was well enough to move around and not hurt so bad, I started really looking for work. And once she seen that I was looking for work, like real work, that's when she said to me that she was like, if this is something you're really trying to do, we don't want you to put a Band-Aid over what's happened. We want you to heal and we want you to get better. And when she said that to me, it kind of restored my faith in humanity. And that's when I started looking into programs like transitional housing.
What would you tell a younger version of yourself? What would you tell the 16-year-old Amber or other 16-year-old Amber girls that are out there?
I forgive you. That's exactly what I would tell her, is I forgive you. I harbored a lot of guilt once I got into recovery and started working a program. Like, it was harder for me to forgive myself than it was anybody that put me in any type of harm's way. I left behind a whole other lifestyle, and I did it out of greed. I did it out of addiction. I did it out of a real deep place of pain that wasn't all my fault. And I see that now. I mean, I'm 5 years in and I see that now. And if I could, I would have forgiven myself a lot sooner than what I did.
Do you think that would have prevented some of these things from occurring? Maybe even you dancing?
I think so. Yeah. Yes. Because, I mean, at that point, with the guilt comes shame. With shame keeps you in isolation. It keeps you in that same ball of chaotic, vicious nothing. And it kept me there. I was in bondage to it.
When you were in that week, you're stripping, you're getting choked out, right before that argument, what love was then and how you would define love today. Is there a difference?
Vastly. Yes. Huge difference. I personally, it's really hard for me to pinpoint when my perception of love became so skewed into just chaos. I recently took a class that my job had me go do a certification for, and they were talking about the 8 dimensions of wellness, and one of them was the environment. And that's when I realized that I can't function in society if my home environment is not well. So I think that my perception of love became very different from everybody else's perception of love whenever I was younger. And, that falls from, my parents watching porn in the living room during the day. So when I come in from riding my bike and, porn's on the big screen, of course I thought sex was casual growing up after that. And I see that now. And I also know that that is not my fault either.
Leading me into a question
Sure.
that I didn't know you were gonna go. My question is porn part of the problem?
Absolutely. Absolutely, porn is part of the problem. Because porn, or like any other addiction, you get to when you're at a certain level that what you are doing isn't doing it for you anymore. So I guess you could say your tolerance is built up. So you start to do things that you weren't doing before to get that same reaction, to get that same feeling that you were previously. So, like, for example, porn, if I'm watching porn and I keep watching porn and it's not doing anything for me anymore, I might take it a step up to do other things, like call and try to rent or buy, a woman that will come and satisfy my needs as well, because watching it's not doing it anymore.
Seeing your parents, I ask people often, what was your first experience or exposure to sex, the term, not necessarily intercourse, but watching porn.
Mm-hmm.
5-year-old walks in, there's porn on the screen. That is a collision.
Agreed.
Okay, and I call it imprinting. You can't get it back. That moment, you said it. Oh, okay, sex is casual. It's a decision that you made, right?
Right.
Did that lead you? Did you ever become a user of porn?
Yes. Yes.
How much do you think that first exposure had an impact on it?
I honestly had no idea until I got into my first Celebrate Recovery step study. And while I was in that step study, one of the participants in that step study started talking about porn also. And her just mentioning certain things, it made me remember. And because I honestly had not remembered all those years until that day. And then I was like, whoa. And that's when I kind of started digging more into that.
What did you find?
That I feel, I personally feel that is why I did think sex was so casual, because it was on the screen in the living room in the broad daylight, and so, yeah, I can see why my perception of sex and love became very different from everybody else's. I was very young. Maybe eight. Is there a tissue that I can use? Okay.
The box is not one, the box. It was here. Yeah, use that. Just roll off.
You're good. We good? Sorry. Thanks. Okay.
What would success look like to your organization?
I would say success in her true name really be just more dancers showing up to the coffee hour. Just showing up, just having coffee. We played What's the Meme last time we hosted it. It was a lot of fun. And, her true name is designed to meet them right where they're at. So I personally don't want them to come in and be like, I'm done, I'm ready to change everything. Well, that's not feasible. That's not going to happen. But I believe consistently staying there and consistently, going into the clubs and hosting the coffee hour will start to build some trust. And that way, if something ever does occur, then they know that they can call anybody at her true name and start asking questions about, making changes for themselves. So I would say right now, just small success would just be, dancers showing up.
What territory, and just repeat the territory what territory does her true name serve?
Tulsa strip clubs and surrounding areas.
In your opinion, why do you think sexual exploitation or sex trafficking is happening? I'm not sure. I personally, when I watch TV, when I'm sitting there watching regular 7 o'clock shows on basic cable and commercials come up and women are half naked and, they're also exploiting men too. I think that is another reason why everybody also thinks that sex is so casual too, because it's so desensitized. I mean, you start to see it so much and you think that it's normal when really it's just slowly desensitizing society. Anything else you would like people to know about the Girls Who Dance, or the organization, or what you do? Anything that I didn't ask that would be important for you to share?
I think it's very important for me to put out there that I am a survivor, and I do say I'm a survivor leader from Oklahoma. I am a recovering addict. I have worked very hard to get where I'm at now, and that it's possible. It is completely possible. And I feel like now I'm going after the life I've prayed for. And I feel like now that I am stronger than ever to do that, because I had so many amazing women pouring into me, and I just want to give that back. And I don't want to just, I want to really love women right where they're at in life. And I know I'm aware that that's not easy all the time, but I think just consistently being there, even if it's a year down the line, that's okay, because Her True Name is a seed planting ministry. And sometimes, we don't see the harvest of that, but sometimes we do. And it's all about the one. If one can make it out, if one decides to change, then we're successful.
Just give me your name, last name, and organization again.
Amber Bible, Her True Name, out of Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Thank you. That's all.
Thanks. I tried. I'm sorry.